when we started looking at cities in China, that is 6 years ago, me and Michiel Hulshof, a Dutch journalist, started working on a research project. We very clear, from the beginning onwards, we started to understand that there is a model in China, a model of urbanization, and that model is different than in the rest of the world. Simply because the way, let's say, the political, economical, social environment is conditioned here is completely different than in the western part of the world, for example. So that means that the way cities are developed and built it also works in a different way. And the interesting part is, of course, that urbanization here, or urban development, or urban design here is a profession that's still being practiced, whereas in the West it's, I mean, almost dying because we don't develop our cities anymore. I mean, cities are shrinking instead of expanding somehow. So urban planning as a profession is really being practiced, let's say, in China and Asia at large. We met a lot of people, and where we very often asked, like, is there this kind of urban model that you plan from the top down? Is it being organized? Do the mayors of all the big cities come together every year to say, okay, this is the way we develop our cities? No, it's not working like this, obviously. So this model is not a preconceived notion. It's a construct that that you have to start putting together in bits and pieces. But there's a couple of bigger ideas that you could say that describes this model. Let's say the way Chinese cities are dealing with their history is in a completely different way than the way we do that in the West. So the meaning of history, the meaning of preservation, the relationship with history is completely different. The role of nostalgia in that is also different. Let's say the model is very strongly driven by putting in place physical infrastructure first. So the idea that you first put in a road and then that allows for the city to expand. And one of the key things is that that there's a clear relationship between the city and the countryside. So let's say migration makes up a big part of what the model is about, both in terms of cities that are expanding, but also in terms of the workforce that is driving this urbanization. Yeah? These are farmers, actually, that are moving to the city to put iPhones together, to make jeans, to make trainers, but also to build skyscrapers in the end. Yeah? It's literally people that come from the farmland that end up building these kind of skyscrapers we see over there. That's one element. The second element is that also there is a huge clash between the countryside and the city, in the sense that the cities that are expanding take over the countryside in a very aggressive way somehow, and therefore transforming the land, transforming society also. But not always urbanization means people pick up their bag and they move to the city. No, it can also happen the opposite, that the city literally takes over the countryside. That hence also the title of our book, How the City Moved to Mr. Sun. Mr. Sun is a farmer literally sitting in his house, and the city is at a certain point surrounding his farmland. Yes, there is a Chinese urban model. Yes, it has a couple of particular elements that are different from the urban model in the West, which is, like I just mentioned, the relationship with the countryside city, heavy investment in infrastructure first, implementation from the top down, the strong role of the state, but that also is related to the strong entrepreneurship of the Chinese. So, although there is a very strong top-down implemented system, there's also a very strong bottom-up force that responds to that and that tries to find loopholes to the system that's being implemented. And then finally, you see that model is now moving from the hard side of urbanization, which is to create skylines basically, to the soft side, which is talking about creating cultural infrastructure, clean air, more sustainable cities, and so forth. And that whole package is now, we see that somehow is being exported to other parts of the world, simply because the role of China in the world is changing and enlarging.